Aloha! Welcome to Kōkua Hawaii Foundation's ʻAINA Cooking for Change, a virtual family cooking series hosted by Chef Ed Kenney, Kōkua Hawaii Foundation board member and co-owner of Town Hospitality Group. Our fourth and last ʻAINA Cooking for Change session for this Farm to School Month celebration features Chef Tiffanie Masutani and her daughter Kaitlyn, who will be cooking ʻUlu hummus and rustic whole wheat ʻulu crackers. This webinar will be recorded and available to view after the live Zoom on the Kōkua Hawaii Foundation website. Details will be sent to all participants in a wrap-up email. Since this is our final session, we wanted to let you know that following this session, you will receive an invitation to complete a short survey to share your feedback on this session and the entire Cooking for Change series. Your participation will help us plan for future virtual events, including our upcoming Simplify the Holidays series. One lucky responder will receive a Hawaii ʻUlu Co-op sampler box from the Chef Hui and an ʻAINA in Schools apron. This Zoom webinar will be in presenter mode, so only the presenters will have video and audio capabilities. The best way for participants to interact with Chef Tiffanie throughout the session is to use the chat box. Kōkua Hawaii Foundation staff will be monitoring your questions and comments, so please drop your questions or comments to Tiffanie there, and we'll share them throughout the webinar. Let's practice using the chat box now by having you tell us how many family members you're cooking with today, what city you're tuning in from, maybe what school you attend, and let us know something you've learned about ʻUlu over the course of this series. Aloha, I see the team from Waialae, the Sumida family there. Chef Tiffanie is an ʻAINA chef there at Waialae School. Aloha, Sarah and Dana, how you doing? I see folks from Eva Beach are tuning in. Folks from Mililani are here. Wow, we've got folks from all over the island tuning in. Lauren, Justin, and 4-year-old Apollo are ready to cook up some ʻUlu in Manoa. This is so fun. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. So make sure that you're selecting the all panelists and all attendees when you send your chat so everybody can see your comments. If you take photos of your family cooking with Chef Tiffanie today and of your family with the final plated dish, please share them on Facebook or Instagram and tag Kōkua Hawaii Foundation, Chef Hui Hawaii, Whole Foods, and the Hawaii ʻUlu Co-op. If you don't have social media but would like to send us photos that we can share, please email them to ʻAINA@kokuahawaiifoundation.org. At the end of October, we'll be selecting 6 of our favorite photo submissions from the entire ʻAINA Cooking for Change series, and they will receive a $50 Whole Foods Market gift card. Thank you so much again for joining us. And now let's start Cooking for Change.
Good morning, happy Sunday, family fun day. Thank you for coming back for our 4th and final, unfortunately, episode of Cooking for Change, session 4. I really hope you guys have been enlightened and informed and had as much fun as I have during this month, really delving into cooking local foods with your family and eating at home. Since it's the only last opportunity I've got, I really have to give sincere thanks to many of the people that made this happen. First off, as a Kōkua Hawaii Foundation board member, I have to give tremendous thanks to the staff out in Haleiwa of Kōkua Hawaii Foundation. You guys rock, always putting the future of our keiki first. Also, Chef Hui. These guys are logistical savants. They make things happen. They're always connecting the dots. This wouldn't have happened without them. Who else? Whole Foods Market donated a bunch of stuff in the cooking kits. Also this week, the citrus that's in your cooking kits comes from local AF Fish Pond out in Haleiwa. And of course, Hawaii ʻUlu Co-op. We dove deep into ʻUlu this month, and I'm hoping that we've kind of been able to take it from ambiguous to ubiquitous, an omnipresent force in your local kitchens. Back on the first session, I showed all the different ripenesses of ʻUlu, and I've had a tremendous amount of inquiry into one thing I said. I talked about young ʻUlu, probably about baseball-sized ʻUlu, and drew a parallel to artichoke heart. And so many people have come and emailed me and said, what? Artichoke heart? Never heard anything like it. So real fast, I'm just gonna dive into that. Simply, pressure cooker at home, instant pot. If you guys don't have one, I highly recommend getting one. 10 minutes is all it takes. You put these little baby ʻUlu in the pressure cooker, and they come out, seriously, that almost looks like artichoke heart, doesn't it? That's probably where the idea came from. Stuff it into a jar, add some vinegar, olive oil, garlic, herbs, chili flake, and that's it. This is probably good in your fridge for 2 weeks. If you were to pressure can it like you do in a boiling vat, you could leave it shelf stable for months. But these things are some of my favorites. Look at it. I mean, it looks like an artichoke heart. Same texture. You put it on pizza, pasta, just in an antipasti, like on a cheese board or something. Highly recommend you try it. Excuse me. So, again, this would not have happened without all these people pitching in, and one group that I really think need to be acknowledged through this are our cafeteria and food service workers in our local public schools. Our ʻAINA in Schools program, one of the programs is about getting healthy local food in schools, and that wouldn't happen without the devotion and hard work of these cafeteria workers. I just found out that in the last few months since we've had these shutdowns, we have continued to feed over 2 million meals to local kids, no questions asked, breakfast and lunch. Right now during spring break, there's 209 schools participating where kids can go in and get breakfast and lunch. Kids can't learn on an empty stomach. So it is so crucial that we support these people, give them a living wage, support them with the equipment they need, get local food in the schools. On a larger sense, I can't continue without thanking our teachers. Our neighbor is a teacher, and I've seen what she has gone through in the last few months, changing her whole style of teaching, Zoom, online. What always comes first is the keiki. It's not important how inconvenient it is. They are just so dedicated to what they do. It just so happens that our guest chef today is a culinary instructor, a teacher at Culinary Institute of the Pacific. Her name is Chef Tiffanie Masutani. Ironically, she and I went to school together at Culinary Institute of the Pacific back in the 20th century. She followed her heart where she wanted to share the love of cooking, and I guess I followed my heart and wanted to share my love for food. Either way, food rules. So Chef Tiffanie today is going to be cooking with her daughter Kaitlyn in her own kitchen. They're going to be doing ʻUlu hummus with rustic whole wheat biscuits. And I think without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to Tiffanie. Chef Tiffanie. Oh, wait. One last thing. I cook, you cook, we all cook. And you know what? Cooks vote. Get out there and vote.
Well, thank you to Chef Ed for that wonderful introduction. And I also want to thank the ʻAINA in Schools, the Kōkua Hawaii Foundation for inviting and doing these online cooking demos. I think it's wonderful that we're still able to educate and also taste at home, even though school may not be in session for everybody. So I think it's still a great way that we can still participate. So thank you all for joining us today. So again, my name is Tiffanie. I'm joined here with Kaitlyn, my daughter. I'm also an ʻAINA chef at Waialae Elementary. I also teach at KCC, Kapiolani Community College. Currently, I'm teaching baking. And one of the wonderful things about KCC and working with ʻAINA is working with local ingredients. As the students come through KCC, culinary baking students, they're introduced to local farmers, making those connections. So once they start graduating, once they start working out in the industry, you know, they do have some knowledge, some familiarity with local food, local products that they can incorporate into their menu items. So when they do become chefs, you know, they've already had that relationship built with the farmers, you know, with the local beef people, the pig farmers. So at least we can start incorporating more local products. And I do want to also shout out to Chef Ed. He did mention about feeding with the cafeteria workers. Part of the KCC program, some of our graduates do go into the DOE, which is the Department of Education. They go work in the cafeterias, even private school cafeterias. So, you know, that knowledge can also transfer over to start introducing local food products. So, you know, the keiki will see it in school under maybe school breakfast or school lunch, right? ʻAINA comes in, it reinforces that product or maybe a new process that the food is being cooked or eaten, and they sample it. And then, right, we go home and then we also cook or try local different products. So it's kind of like that 3 areas where they get reinforced because, of course, you know, some keikis are a little bit, they like different items, right? So the more we can introduce it to them, right, the more they're going to be accustomed to it, and then they're going to start asking for it. What I love too is, especially with the ʻAINA and cooking, is you cook with your keiki, you know, or they cook at the school, they go home and they actually start asking for it. Like one time we'll make like a bean stew, right? Most kids, right? Beans, right? A little bit different, but they do it at school. They taste it with their friends, right? The friends say, oh, look, let's try this. Let's try this. And then, you know, they go home to their tutu and be like, tutu, I made this bean stew today. Can we go and make it? Can we go shopping for the ingredients? So learning basic knife skills, I think, is so important, which we also reinforce at school. So I think all together, just working all together as a community, as a food community, is just perfect, especially doing local agriculture. All right, I know you guys, this is the last session. You've been working with ʻUlu all throughout. Today we're going to be doing a ʻUlu whole wheat cracker, and we're also going to be doing a hummus. So the ʻUlu hummus is really great to use because you can use it as a dip, but you can also use it as a spread in between your breads, in between tortillas. So there's all different ways that we can do it. All right, so let's get started. Kaitlyn, you ready to cook? Okay, so a couple items. There was a sheet that went out. We did request some items to be done previous. If not, then don't worry. You know, we can still, we know that the video is going to go out later on, so you can always stop and rewind. Okay, right now I do have my oven. It's preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. If your oven is like, it's like a vroom vroom Corvette, right? A little bit of hot. I want you to lower your oven to maybe 300 to 325. My oven's a little bit older. She's kind of like a Toyota, steady. Okay, so I have her at 350. Okay, I also have a steamer pot that was steamed with some ʻUlu earlier. Okay, I'll bring my ʻUlu a little bit closer so you can see. All right, so I pulled it out with my tongs. I had them cut into about 2 inches. Okay, so they're still a little bit nice and warm. If you have your ʻUlu that was from earlier, you can always pull it out from the refrigerator. Okay, and again, we want to thank Hawaii ʻUlu Co-op. Okay, we're using this green bag over here. This is the Hawaii grown breadfruit. So delicious, and it's very easy to prepare. Okay, I also have a clean workstation and with a little bit of towels, just in case. Okay, so this is going to be for our crackers. Okay, one of the ʻUlu recipes that we're going to do is the ʻUlu hummus, which did request some roasted garlic. Okay, now I love garlic, so we have a choice here. If you want a little bit of extra garlic punch flavor, you can leave the garlic raw. If you want that nice sweetness to the garlic, you know, when you start cooking garlic, it turns a little bit of brown. That's because there's natural sugars in the garlic. What you can do is you can roast it in your preheated oven while we start making the crackers. Okay, so what we'll do first is we'll roast the garlic, just in case that wasn't done before. All right, we'll walk you through the cracker recipe using a whole wheat flour, graciously donated from Whole Foods. All right, while the crackers are baking, Okay, everything's kind of going in the oven. Then we'll start the hummus, right? So a lot of things I have a mise en place. Okay, I know Chef Dave had talked about it. So preparation before. Okay, so we have great mise en place, and then now we'll get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw it into the chat box. All right. All right, let's get started. Okay, so we have hands clean workstation. Okay, I'm going to be roasting my garlic in this pie tin over here with a little bit of foil. I'm using fresh garlic, so I'm keeping the skin on. Yes. Okay, so what's Kaitlyn going to do is she's going to put the cloves of garlic. Okay, I have about 6 cloves. I love garlic. Okay, so, and then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil on top. So we're just going to drizzle it. Now the olive oil is going to help kind of cook that garlic in the skin. All right, now good mise en place. I'm just going to move my rubbish off to the side. Okay, so we're going to try clean as we go. And kids, keiki, if you're out there, right? Clean as we go. Okay, now we're going to fold up the garlic in the foil. I'll move it over here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of wrap it. You can leave it open if you want. Okay, wrapping it will just kind of seal in the heat, so it just kind of starts to steam in the oven. And I do have it on a foil pan, oven safe, so I'm just going to throw it right in. Okay, let's throw it into the oven. Okay, oven open. Okay, one of the great things about school is you want to kind of keep where your hot spots are. So if you're opening the oven, I just call it oven open as a habit. Just so if anybody's around me knows that the oven's going to be open, okay, make sure it's safe for the keiki. All right, now that the garlic is in the oven, we can start on the crackers. Okay, so on this tray for the crackers, we should have 1 cup of ʻUlu, which was pre-steamed. Okay, so if it's slightly warm, right, you might want to mash it with our wooden spoon. Okay, this one I steamed a little bit earlier, so I had it in the refrigerator. So I just took it out, so it kind of comes to room temp. Right? We also want a 1/3 cup of whole wheat flour. Okay, now whole wheat is really great to use. This is what the schools will use in the cafeteria, right? So the whole grain component. If you look at the whole wheat flour compared to your regular white flour, it does have little brown specks. So this is the whole flour, the whole bran on the outside, and it's what it is. It's blended and ground and milled together. Normally what I do for the whole wheat flour is I will keep it either stored in the refrigerator or the freezer. Okay, because it does have the whole bran on the outside, okay, what happens is it tends to kind of spoil a little quicker versus if you're using a regular white flour. Any flour you can actually store in the freezer to keep it long term, just because here Hawaii, it's super hot, right? So if you're going to store it outside, sometimes little bugs might come in, okay? But keep it safe in the freezer, no problem, right? I also have 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. I love to use extra virgin olive oil. You can kind of see it on my chart over here. At this point. Okay, olive oil is considered a brain food. Okay, our ʻUlu that we're using is an energy food, so it's a whole grain. It's considered a whole grain, along with our whole wheat flour. Okay, so mixed together, it's really delicious. Okay, I have some salt, so I'm using sea salt over here. Okay, I have a little bit of extra oil on the side for brushing. A little bit of extra flour. Okay, and I also have cutters. Kaitlyn, you want to show them the cutters that we picked? Okay, so we have some star cutters here. I've got a bear. If you don't have cookie cutters, what you can also use is a plastic picnic knife. These I think are great if you get takeout, right? We don't throw these away. Wash them, recycle them. Okay, these are great for working with the keiki in the kitchen. Okay. If you have like a little roller too, you can also use this, like a pizza cutter. Okay. And some rolling pins. Okay. And your recipe. Okay. As an option, you could have some herbs. I pulled some fresh herbs out of our garden. So I have some flat chives. This can be incorporated into the dough. I have some rosemary here. All right, this can also be used on top of the dough. Just want to be careful of it burning. And I have some fresh basil. So we're making a lot of dough. So any of the extra dough, you can always experiment and try different types of seasonings if you want, different types of herbs. The great thing about this dough is you can refrigerate it for later and roll it out at your convenience. So don't feel rushed that we have to get through all this dough today. You can always just wrap it up in like an airtight container, maybe even some saran wrap or like a towel, and just keep it off to the side until you're ready. Maybe you want to bake some off for dinner tonight. That's great, right? Or maybe a snack for tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the herbs on the side. Okay. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be mashing up the ulu into my bowl. Okay, so this part is very important. This ulu behaves a little bit like a potato. So if you guys have ever worked with potato before, it does have a starchiness in it. What we want is this ulu to be mashed up so that starchiness will start holding the dough together. Okay, so if you want, some people prefer to smash their things off with their spoon. Okay, you can also use your hand. Kaitlyn, you want to start smashing with your hand? Come. No, you can leave the chair over there. Okay, so no, don't be shamed here, right? Because we washed our hands are clean. Okay, so start smashing the ulu down into small pieces. If it's warm, if you just brought it off the steamer, then maybe you want to use a spatula or a spoon. Okay, what we're doing is we're starting to mash it so it forms together into a ball. Okay, some people like to ask me, oh, you know, my kid wants to cook, you know, what can we do? Right? Depending on the age, you know, there's no great age to start besides now, I think. All right, even kids as young as preschool, I would do some demos at Kaitlyn's preschool. You'd be surprised to see what the kids will learn and pick up. Okay, I love using these plastic picnic knives. Keep mashing, okay? Just because they're a little serrated, so it's easy for them to cut with like carrots or even a soft like tofu, right? Or maybe some soft vegetables or fruit. All right, I normally introduce fruit when we first start working with the kids, especially when we're doing maybe with the KCC. I would do the rainbow, the cooking up a rainbow portion, and we would always do like some fresh fruit, fresh local fruit that's good to see. Okay, yeah, okay, so Kaitlyn, keep mashing.
Someone's asking if they want to make the crackers gluten-free, what kind of flour could they use?
Okay, well, actually, we have a couple options. So I tried the gluten-free using a coconut flour. What I did, though, was I did have to increase the ulu by a little bit. So I just, if you can see kind of closer to it, this is the sample that I used. Bless you. Okay, so I mixed maybe about half the amount of coconut flour, just because the coconut flour is a little bit more drying on the ulu, and make sure we kind of mash the ulu into a really nice paste. Okay, kind of like how Kaitlyn's doing here. Yep, Kaitlyn's doing it right now. Okay, and also I found out that using a really ripe ulu, if you mash it up to kind of get it nice and starchy, if you roll it out very gently, and you can actually bake it like a cracker. This one right here, if you can kind of see a little bit closer, I used the steamed ulu. I took it off while it was still warm, and then I just mashed it into a really kind of a dough ball consistency, and I rolled it out gently on the counter, and then I just punched the shape. Okay, what I did was I did bake it a little bit longer in my oven, so about 350. I did make sure I rotated it because I do have some hot spots. Okay, but if it seems a little bit dry, kind of like the coconut one, I did add a little bit more oil and maybe about a tablespoon of water. Okay, so Kaitlyn's doing a great job over here. Okay, I'm gonna try see if I can move the bowl a little bit closer to you or give it to. Okay, but if you guys are cooking at home or if you guys are mashing it at home, you can start to see the consistency change. All right, so you see how I'm kind of mashing it in my hand and it's turning it into a ball. Hey, this is kind of what we're looking for before we add in the flour. Okay. And I was gonna try some brown rice flour, but unfortunately my brown rice flour bag had a hole in it. So I didn't get a chance to try. Yeah, so this is ʻUlu, yeah. This is the starch. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? No? Okay. How are you guys doing at home? You guys doing great? Kind of mashing? Probably hard to type in the chat because our hands are all filled with ʻUlu. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is once we get that consistency, okay, so Kaitlyn's gonna add in the whole wheat flour.
All of it?
All of it, yep. Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna be mashing it up. Okay, once you start adding in your flour, you probably don't want to taste it, right? Because the flour needs to be baked. Okay, we're also going to be mashing this flour and the ʻUlu together until that same consistency that you saw earlier that I showed. Okay.
Someone is saying their ʻUlu is a little bit stringy. Do you have any suggestions?
If it was it steamed, was it pierced steamed pretty well?
The pre-cooked steamed ʻUlu that we gave out in the bags yesterday.
Okay, maybe see if you can kind of mash it a little bit more. If you're having trouble mashing it, then maybe it needs to be pre-steamed a little bit more. Now there's all types of different varieties of ʻUlu as well.
I got you first.
Thank you. Okay, so Kaitlyn made a ball of the ʻUlu and flour. So this is looking great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a pinch of salt. Okay, now this salt is gonna be optional. Here, you wanna add it in? Okay, add it in. Yep, add it into our mix. Okay, so if you're looking for less salt, right? You don't necessarily have to add in the salt. We're gonna mix it.
You're crunching my ball.
Let's make a big ball.
I want to do
Okay, and there's also, we're gonna be adding a little bit of salt on top of the cracker too. And that's also optional as well. Okay, so I'm using a clear bowl so you can kind of see what's going on inside. Okay, so we're being able to form into a ball. Now we're gonna start adding in slowly our olive oil. I like to use olive oil because, you know, it is a brain food. I prefer extra virgin olive oil. You can tell the quality of the olive oil is how dark it is. So this one is very nice and dark. You can use any neutral flavored oil as well, probably even the coconut oil. You can also use water, but with the oil, it will be able to crisp up a little bit more. Kind of more that cracker texture that we're looking for. Okay, you ready? Let's add in the oil. Okay. Okay, so slowly add in the oil and then we're gonna start mixing again.
all of it.
Yep, all of it. Okay, so a great way for kids to get involved, right? You can have them cut vegetables, right? You can have them measure. Everybody's favorite is measuring and math. So even sometimes too, if these recipes are a little bit too large for you, you can also break it down or expand them, multiply or divide.
Can I add?
Yeah, okay, add one more pinch of salt, just pinch. Okay, so by pre-scaling, I say, right, or having good mise en place, right, maybe you might want to do that before, and then when the kids come, then they can start pouring in the ingredients.
I like salt in it.
Yeah, and like
Can
salt.
I add more?
Yep, we're gonna add more salt to it.
I want to add more.
Okay, so your dough should be starting to form into a nice ball with the oil. Can I borrow this? Yeah, I'm gonna show the camera. Okay, so if you can see Kaitlyn's forming a ball, okay, kind of like this too. Okay, depending, you might have big ʻUlu chunks. If you were mashing it in, okay, it might be a little bit softer, so your dough might be a little bit more pliable, and it might just look like one color. Okay, either is fine. Yep.
Don't break.
Okay. Once your ball of dough is formed, now we're gonna turn it out onto the table.
I made this.
Yes, you did. And it's also great to celebrate what the keiki has made, especially when we're in school, right? Oops.
My ball.
Yeah, okay, let's form it back. Okay, so again, with the flour, if you guys are using the whole wheat flour, okay, once we start adding in the oil, we're gonna start making gluten, which is kind of like that rubbery chewiness to your breads that you guys know. Okay, that gluten will also help with the texture of our cracker. Okay, so I'm gonna move these guys off to the side. Okay, that's enough salt.
Oh, guys.
Now we're gonna add salt on top.
Salt's never enough.
Salt never enough. Oh, sounds like a cook, huh? All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start dusting the clean table with a little bit of our whole wheat flour.
Let me do it.
Okay, so, yep, so Kaitlyn sprinkling it on top. Okay, this is a fun thing to do with the kids, right? Making sure they get it on the table.
Yay, mess.
Mess, as long as it's on the table, right?
Yay, mess.
Okay, you can kind of see here too, right? The more you work the dough, right, it's gonna start shrinking back a little bit. That's kind of what we're looking for before we start rolling out the cracker. Okay, so Kaitlyn's gonna get her rolling pin. Here, you have yours. I have mine.
Let me get one thing.
Okay, so I like to work a little bit at a time. Okay, we don't want to be rolling out the whole ball of dough just because it's a little bit big. Okay, we don't want to get frustrated at it. Okay, this was a plant, right? Our ʻUlu was growing, so we don't want to get angry at the dough. I like to say, you know, like grandma's cooking, Tutu's cooking, or even grandpa's cooking is so great because they put a lot of love into it, right? So when we're kind of rolling out the dough, right, I don't want to think angry thoughts, right? We want to think, you know, this ʻUlu was grown from a local farmer somewhere, probably on the Big Island because it came from the ʻUlu co-op, right? You know, they spent a lot of love tending to these crops. So we do want to share our love, okay, with our dough as well. Okay, when you're rolling out the dough, couple of good tips. Okay, make sure you have enough flour underneath so the dough is rolling out.
Like this?
Yep. Okay, you want to kind of squish your dough back together. If it's starting to crumple apart, use your fingertips.
Do I have something on my first?
You have something on your face. Okay, now, if you don't have a rolling pin, not to worry, right? You can use like a clean aluminum can as long as you take the label off. Okay, you can use like, I have a peanut butter jar in the back. You could use like a glass jar. Okay. You can also use your fingertips. So well-oiled, well-floured fingers. You can actually just start pressing the dough out. Okay, so I'm going to be rolling this paper thin. So if the dough isn't moving, make sure you dust on top. Okay, make sure you dust on the bottom. Okay, if it's sticking to the rolling pin or your rolling device, make sure you add a little bit of flour on top. Okay, thank you, Kaitlyn. Keep rolling. Okay, so I have it pretty thin. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start punching them out. Okay, so you did it. Very nice. Okay, so I have a aluminum pan here. You could use a baking tray if you want. You can line it with parchment paper, silpat. This one is pretty good. It doesn't stick. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start punching out shapes. Okay, if you have cookie cutters, all right, she's going to cut out some stars. Okay, mine is really pretty thin, maybe about 1/16 of an inch thick. So I'm just going to be very gentle when I'm making shapes. Okay, you can be rustic, so you can use your picnic cutter knife and just kind of make triangles or rectangles. Okay, this is also a good activity for the kids, right? You can say, okay, let's make a rectangle. How many sides does a rectangle have? Right? If they're a little bit older, you can talk about angles, right angles, or vertices, which was something new I've never really learned, which is, I guess, the vertices. Do you remember what vertices are?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I saw it in your homework. I was like, what is a vertices?
Yay! No peeking.
Okay, so I'm lining them up. Try to keep them about the same size because, ooh, thank you. Here, let's put it in. Okay, because if they are going to be baking in the pan, the little tinier ones are going to start to bake first.
I showed.
Yeah, Kaitlyn's showing you her star. Okay, once you have some shapes lined up in your pan, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start brushing them with a little bit of olive oil.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Let me get rid of them.
Okay, so I have some olive oil here in my container.
Yay!
Okay, let's get the other star. Okay, so picnic knife is great too because you can kind of separate it if it wasn't cut well.
And how long are you roasting the garlic for?
I like to go about 20 minutes.
Awesome.
So they should be about done, right?
I start.
Okay, so her star, yep, so we can just smash the dough back together. Okay, so I'm gonna put her star in. It's a little bit thicker, so it will take a little bit longer. Thank you. Oops,
Hey,
we're gonna bake them now.
you're breaking my star.
Oh, okay, I'll fix it. All right, so what are we gonna do now is we're gonna brush them with a little bit of oil. So you don't necessarily need a brush. I love using my hands for everything, picking up things, rolling things out. I'm just gonna dip my fingers in a little bit of that olive oil. Now I'm gonna brush the tops of the cracker.
Wait for me.
Oh, here. Yep, you can do it too.
I'm making a donut.
Okay, make a donut then.
Wait for me. Though.
Okay.
Wait for me.
Yep, I am. I'm just brushing my two.
You made 2?
I actually made 6. Okay, so I'm just brushing the tops with the olive oil. This is an optional step. The olive oil will help brown your cracker. Okay, if you're going to be putting a topping on top, I'm going to be adding a little bit of salt. Kaitlyn's favorite thing.
Hey.
Yeah. Okay,
Hey.
you want to add the salt? Here you go.
You're using my favorite thing.
Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of salt to the top. So the olive oil is going to help with browning as well as having the topping stick. Okay, so if you have multiple kids helping out at the same time, what is really helpful to do is assign them steps. So look at the recipe, right? Steps 1 through 10. And maybe if you have 2 kids, right? The kids will all take turns, right? Because we want to give the kids an opportunity to either touch the dough, roll out the dough. Can't be a little bit too much. Okay, that's good. How about this guy?
No, salt's
no.
never enough.
Okay, that's enough salt. Okay.
Salt's the best.
Okay, good. Okay, can you do me a favor and roll up this dough?
Mhm.
Okay, so now I'm gonna put this into the oven for about 12 minutes, and I'm gonna take out my garlic. Okay, so what we're gonna do, yes, exactly. So any of the extra dough, okay, after this webinar is done, you can always go ahead and roll up the extra dough.
This is perfect.
That's perfect. Okay, what we're gonna do is roll it out into a ball. Oops, roll it into a ball so it doesn't dry out. And we're gonna keep it covered and keep it off to the side.
Can I add some salt?
Yeah, don't add too much salt.
Can I help?
No, no. Remind me of that other video.
What salt?
All right. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna clean up our area. So because I have a little tray here, I'm just gonna add the rest of it too. Okay, so what's Kaitlyn doing is she's actually trying ingredients. We do encourage the kids to try as they go, especially when we're working with fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, a part of the teaching too is I was able to go into some of the schools, and it's amazing what kids, you know, they don't know
Too
what a
salty.
yes, it's too salty. It's amazing what the kids, you know, they don't know what a real pineapple looks like.
Right?
Yeah, maybe they, you know, they think the pineapple comes out of the can. But, you know, by doing these types of programs, by reinforcing what's being done at school and being taught in the ʻAINA is also great to show the kids, you know, where things come from, how things are grown. Okay, so Kaitlyn's eating, so Kaitlyn needs to go wash her hands. Okay, wash your hands, Kaitlyn. Okay, so now once the crackers are in the oven, we pulled out our garlic out of the oven at the same time. Okay, so what I'm looking for is nice soft garlic. So if your garlic's not quite there, right, some of the smaller ones are soft.
Can we still need the salt?
Nope, not anymore.
Can I have the salt?
After Kaitlyn. Okay, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on the hummus.
Can I do?
We're gonna do this one. You're gonna help me with this one?
I want the salt.
After Kaitlyn, okay?
I want the salt.
You wanna test something out?
Go on the side. That's all.
Okay, any questions so far with the crackers or the roasted?
Is this all?
Yes. All good? All good. All right. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're gonna start moving on into the hummus. Okay, now our hummus has about 3 cups of the steamed ʻUlu. All right. I'm gonna be using, you like salt too? So does Kaitlyn. Salt is actually using some like a Hawaiian salt, you know, or even like a sea salt or like a Himalayan salt is so much better than using iodized salt. So if you guys can use, you know, like that, it has much more flavor.
Water salt.
Water salt. She made like a little bit of a water salt over here, right? That's good for and fun to play with. But you know, they do have more flavors. There's other flavored salts on the market. Some you might see like the black salt. So it's great to just kind of look at different salts and experiment with it. But I prefer using a sea salt or like a Himalayan. And I also have my Hawaiian salt in the back for more of a finishing type of items. Okay, so we have crackers in the oven. We're gonna get started with our hummus. Okay, if you don't have a food processor at home, right, you can also use like a mortar and pestle over here. Okay, so we have a little bit of different options for you. You can also use a blender, like we do have a NutriBullet back there. You can also use your hands to just kind of start working the dough. That one is our like an orange lemon juice. So
I want orange juice.
yeah, afterwards. Okay, so let's take a look at the items that we're going to be using. So we're going to need 3 cups of steamed ulu, which I have right here. A 1/3 cup of tahini. Now tahini was donated. If you guys had a little bit of from that Whole Foods package, tahini is also one of our bodybuilding and almost like a brain type of food here. Okay, it's made out of sesame.
Where's cups?
After, yeah. So we'll have to make some orange juice for her. It came from my dad's tree.
I need cups.
Afterwards.
I want orange juice.
Okay, come up the side there. Okay. If you don't like sesame, maybe there's an allergy in the house. All right. You can also use like a nut butter. The tahini adds like a level of creaminess to the hummus.
Mommy, where's the cups?
Afterwards, okay, I'll get you the cups.
cups.
Over there. Okay. What else we have? We have lemon or lime juice. So up to you. I have some fresh orange lemon type of juice over here that I got from my dad's house. Okay. Lemons are protective food, right? With the citrus in there. So like lemon, orange juice is great to drink. Okay. It was also from local AF farms out in the North Shore. Okay, so as you may or may not know, we do have lemons and limes and like caracar oranges, all grown here locally. Okay, so we love using the local types of oranges or the fruits just because they're so much fresher, right? They're picked from the tree. They didn't come on a ship or barge. I'm not sure if you know, but a lot of the produce that you might have shipped from like the mainland, it actually takes maybe about 4 to 6 weeks on the barge. So if we can support and buy items from the farmer's market using local items, okay? Come on, this second. Okay, so if you can, guys, go ahead and buy that and support the farmers, right? Because it's like right next door. It's like right outside someone's yard. All right. So again, this one I took from my dad's yard. Okay, we have a little bit of water. So the ulu, as you guys were working it in your hands, right, you noticed how thick it was. So our hummus, we're going to be adding about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of water based upon your thickness that you like. We also have salt, cumin, and pepper.
Is there room for me?
Yep. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a food processor to start combining all the ingredients together. All right, so if you want it a little bit chunky, right, what you can do is either in the food processor or in the bowl, right, you can just mash it with your hands if you want that kind of like home style rustic taste. No, not over here. Okay, if you don't want it, if you want it more smooth, right, we're going to be blending it a little bit longer, and we can add a little bit more water. So this one is kind of up to you how you like it. So that's the great thing about cooking, especially when you start learning and trying different recipes, is you can actually start tailoring the recipes and the tastes to how you want it. All right, so we're going to pour all Okay, so we're going to pour all the ulu into the container.
All of it?
All of it. That's 3 cups. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulsing it in my food processor. Okay, you ready? Okay, Okay, so the blades are starting to break up the ʻUlu. Okay, here, let's move that.
It looks like fun.
It is fun. Okay, while this is blending, the ʻUlu's going. Okay, and let's stop and show. Okay, if you want it a little bit thicker, you can stop here. Right, the longer you blend it, the more smoother and fine the ʻUlu will become.
I want it.
Okay, so keep going. Okay, ready? Here, why don't you pick up the garlic?
That's good.
All right, that's good. Chef Kaitlyn said we're done over there. Okay, what we're gonna do is we'll also, once the garlic cools a little bit, I want you guys to pop it out of the shell. So if you can see the oil is still here, I'm just gonna peel it open and pinch off that little garlic stem. So now you should have a nice, beautiful, soft garlic clove. And we're gonna start adding it in. Okay. Yep, so keep pulsing.
Do I have to like hold this?
Okay, I'm gonna add the garlic towards the end of the mixing process. If you're adding fresh garlic, what you can do is you can always mince it first and just fold it in. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Okay, let's check on the crackers real fast. Okay, so my cracker's about halfway there. I'll show you guys kind of on the camera. You'll know when the crackers are done when you have a light golden brown on the edges, and the middle should look kind of like a nice golden yellow. Shouldn't look too
Can I
wet.
eat one?
Almost. They're almost done. Probably about 5 more minutes here. Okay, so we have the ʻUlu going. Now we can start adding in the tahini. Okay. Let's get a spoon. Okay, so your tahini, if you guys opened it up, I want to make sure you guys stir it up because it is if it was a little bit colder, right, the solid sunk to the bottom. So just give it a good stir and you can start pouring it in. Okay. Yeah, okay, so pour it in. And I like to use a spoon just to kind of get all that good stuff inside. And again, if you don't have tahini, right, you could always use a nut butter.
To make sure it's
Yep. This recipe doesn't have any olive oil in it. You could always add a little bit, but I love this recipe from Chef Nina because, you know, the ʻUlu flavor, the really sweet flavor kind of shines through. Okay, that's good. Okay, now we're gonna add, okay, let's add in our seasonings. So we have some cumin. You can open this up. Okay, add in the cumin. All of it. Okay, so that was 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. Okay, we're gonna add in a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so add it in, all of it. Okay, yeah, don't no more salt. Okay, we have a pepper, so you can add a pinch of fresh ground. Okay, I added about a little under a 1/4 teaspoon. I like pepper, so I added a little bit extra. Okay, now we can add in our local lemon juice. Okay, so you can always use lime juice if you want. Okay, go wash your hands again. Okay. So juice should go in. Now you can always taste it. Okay, because turn on the thing. Okay, some people like their hummus to have a lot of flavor, like maybe a lot of extra salt or a lot of extra cumin. Okay, stop here. Okay, some people may like more tahini, so more of that sesame creaminess flavor. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start adding in the water. Okay, so we're gonna slowly drizzle it until, no, maybe half, until the consistency we want.
That's how. Why are you doing it? That is so cool.
Okay, so we're gonna open it up so I can show you guys what it looks like on the camera before we add in the garlic last. Okay, excuse me, can I have my arm? Okay, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more water. So again, you can make it as thick or thin as you like. Now it also depends how you cooked your ulu. I prefer steaming it because it does still have that natural sweetness to it. Some people like to boil it. When you do boil it or even roast it, right? Boiling adds a little bit more water to it. Roasting has that kind of a crispy edge to it. Okay.
All of it?
Okay, keep blending. Okay. That looks good. Okay, I'm gonna add in the garlic last because I am using a food processor. When you are making garlic or using garlic with a food processor with the metal, sometimes it will react to give a little bit of a kind of bitter taste to it. So I normally do this at the end. Okay, so we're gonna add in the garlic. Here you go.
Hi.
Should be warm.
Hi. 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 Hi.
Okay, good. Okay, and then we're done. So go ahead and blend it up. And it's done. Okay, so most importantly, when you guys are cooking at home, you always want to taste as you go. So I'm gonna give it a quick little taste to make sure it's good.
No.
That's really good. Okay,
I'm not tasting.
after you can. All
No,
right.
I'm not.
So you can always add a little bit more salt. One of the rules we have in the kitchen whenever we're cooking is you always have to try what you make. Because it's always amazing to see what the kids will be cooking at school as well as at home. Okay, let's spoon that in. Okay, so now we're gonna start plating it up. Now this can keep in the refrigerator for about a week, right? It may not last a week in your fridge. You may want to be eating it and snacking on it, using it as a dip, or maybe even like in a tortilla, like a little wrap up. Okay, so just kind of spoon it out. Okay, again, you're going to be the chef here, so you can make it as thick or thin as you want. If you want to add more pepper, you can. If you want to add more citrus, you can as well too. That little bit of citrus is always nice because it kind of cuts through the flavor, brings a little bit of lightness to it.
You should probably answer the question.
Okay, my crackers are about done. Okay, I'm gonna let them cool before we serve them, but they should be kind of picky like here.
Can we give some to Daddy?
Yep, so we're gonna share some with Daddy. It's always great whenever you guys are cooking, always want to share it with your friends, family members, especially when the kids are cooking at it, right? And they can tell and kind of explain what they did. Okay, so these are some of the crackers I made some earlier. So we have our ʻUlu hummus here, some star shapes, right? These are the crackers we had made earlier here too. So you can just kind of serve it together. Okay, now crackers are great replacements for like your regular chips, your maybe muffins, right? The Triscuits, because they are using whole wheat flour as well as local ulu. Any questions so far? How are we doing with the hummus? So if you guys are using like the mortar and pestle, right? We would kind of do it in small batches. Okay, a little bit smaller batches, right? Divide up the ingredients as you guys go along. Okay, if the crackers are not done yet, right? You can just bake them up a little bit longer. Kaitlyn wants to say hi. The hummus is yummy. Yes, it is. And again, it's from Chef Nina. So you can always try a little bit of olive oil. Some people really like to float a little bit of olive oil on top. Again, I love to use the Sinaloa, the local tortilla company. They make a wonderful whole wheat snack size wrap that you can actually spread the hummus in. You know, challenge yourself to see what other protective foods that you guys can do. Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn's working the chat box too. Okay, so maybe you want to put a little bit of local lettuce inside, right? Maybe some whole farm tomatoes, right? Maybe even some shaved corn. Okay, and for you kids too, right? Okay, you don't always have to use a chef knife. Here comes Kaitlyn. You want to show them here? Here come. Okay, kids can use scissors too. Okay, they can use the scissors to cut vegetables or cut like leafy vegetables. This is another great tool here too. This is a lettuce knife. It's a little bit larger, right? We also have a regular picnic knife. Kaitlyn, come over here. Stop that. Okay. Okay, kids can also use a peeler or even like a box grater. Okay, just be careful. This is a little bit sharper, but introducing foods, right? Reinforcing it at school, trying different shapes or different methods of cooking preparation, even like shaving carrots into smaller pieces, right? We don't always have to give them a big carrot stick. Let's try shave it a little bit differently, right? So then kids can try different fruits and vegetables, locally grown, things from your garden, right? Things shared with our neighbors. Okay, any other questions?
I think we're good.
All right, well, thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Kaitlyn says bye. And enjoy everything.
Mahalo, Chef Tiffany and her daughter Kaitlyn. That was really fantastic. Please share any photos of you and your family cooking for change on Facebook, Instagram, and tag Kōkua Hawai'i Foundation, Chef Hui, Whole Foods, the Hawai'i ʻUlu Co-op. And if you don't have social media, but would love to send us photos that we can share, please email them to please email them to āINA@kokuahawai'ifoundation.org. At the end of October, we'll be selecting 6 of our favorite photo submissions from the entire ʻAINA Cooking for Change series, and they will receive a $50 Whole Foods Market gift card. After the webinar, we're going to be sending everyone a follow-up email with the link to the recording. So feel free to ask us any final questions if you'd like right now. And since this is our final Cooking for Change session for October, everyone is also going to receive an invitation to complete a short survey to share your feedback about this session and the entire Cooking for Change series. Your participation will help us plan for future virtual events, including our upcoming Simplify the Holidays series. One lucky responder will receive a Hawaii ʻUlu Co-op sampler box from the Hawaii Chef Hui, as well as an ʻAINA in Schools cooking apron. You saw Chef Tiffany and Kaitlyn wearing them today. So please save the dates. Our ʻAINA Cooking for Change series will return in December on the 6th and the 13th, and we'll be featuring Master Preserver Terry Langley of Bliss Foods. So don't forget to mark your calendars for December 6th and 13th, where Master Preserver Terry Langley of Bliss Foods will be joining us for a special edition of Cooking for Change, Simplify the Holidays. Thank you, Chef Tiffany. Thank you, Kaitlyn. And thank you all. Have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Ahui ho.